Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and this short video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous night of the local time. And this video would like to start with the statements of the President of Russian Federation, Putin. He was interviewed yesterday in the evening, and he gave a lot of very interesting details about the current situation in the world. First of all, Russia doesn't want to start any war or any clashes with NATO. From the other side, the talks that Russia might try to attack Poland, Baltic states or Czech after this end of the special military operation is just the speculations and nothing more, and fake information. Russia will destroy the F-16s on Ukraine the same way as the Russians were destroying the Western tanks, armored vehicles and so on. Furthermore, Putin added that if Ukrainians are going to start using the airfields of the third countries, then the airfields of the third countries are going to become a legal target for Russia. Maybe this is the only way and the only case if the Russians will attack, let's say, Baltic states or Poland or Czech Republic, if they will provide Ukraine their airfields to attack Russia, maybe. Furthermore, we got more details from the Baltic states regarding the situation on the ground, regarding the talks and let's say, words of the Western countries that they're not going to send forces and army on the territory of Ukraine. We continue receiving more and more pictures and video confirmations of redeployment of Western weapon, at least in the Baltic states. This is Latvia, Riga, the port, and arrival of significant number of armored vehicles on the territory of this Baltic state. Furthermore, we got some details about the situation in Poland in the airfield by the name of Rzeszów. If you remember, if you know, as you can see, the Russians during the previous week made a lot of attacks on the territory of Ukraine with missiles, with guided bombs, with drones and so on, and a lot of buildings, a lot of headquarters were destroyed, and Russians really were targeting the NATO offices on the territory of Ukraine. And we had a lot of reports during the previous week about the evacuation of wounded NATO officers, let's say, to other Western countries, and today we got another video, another photo, another information confirming that the plane of United Kingdom Air Forces took from Rzeszów some wounded, another batch of wounded officers of NATO, and start redeploying them back to the United Kingdom. So this is the situation. Now let's move to the situation on the ground, and first we're going to start with the Kharkiv area. The Ukrainians continue bombing the civilians area in Belgorod with using the multiple launch rocket system Vampire. Today the Minister of Defense of Russia reported that they managed to bring down up to 16 missiles, and we have the video of how the Russians were, let's say, bringing down the Ukrainian missiles above the town. So the Russian air defense worked perfectly in the area. But regarding even the Russian air defense, we continue receiving videos and geolocations of explosions inside of the city. This is the result either of the air defense work or either of a strict Ukrainian attack. And the Ukrainians, as you can see, almost every single day launch up to 100 missiles on the territory of Belgorod. So that's why the Russians try to answer. But when talking about Russia's answers, usually the Russians start using FABs. And this is the first week, this is not the first day, but the first week when the Russians start using FAB 1500, FAB 500 or FAB 250 to attack and bomb Kharkiv, very likely as an act of response to the Ukrainian attacks of Belgrade with multiple launch rocket systems. On this video we can see the results of another explosion, a lot of military forces, we see some buildings, damaged buildings, not destroyed till ruins, but anyway the picture is not so good. Furthermore, we got, for example, another video today. This night the Russians attacked some hotel in Kharkiv with FAB, and this is the consequences of attack. The sources are saying that there might be some military forces and of Ukraine armed forces, or maybe Western volunteers. For example, on this video in the morning we see another FAB arrival exactly in the city during the daylight. We see traffic, we see cars, and we see the smoke and the consequences of explosion. Furthermore, the Russians were bombing Kharkiv with drones. So we see two few things. The Ukrainians attack Kharkiv, the Ukrainians attack Belgorod, the Russians attack Kharkiv, and we see from the Russian side in Belgrade a very powerful air defense wall, and when talking about Kharkiv, we see complete absence of any air defense from the Ukrainian side, which is obviously is a critical situation. And today, for example, as I remember, Zelensky was asking the world where is the air defense systems and why the air defense systems are not located on the territory of Ukraine, but they're located in Europe, where there is no threat or no danger from the Russian side. So those were his questions, and obviously we see Zelensky now is nervous about the situation. But for now, he still can't do anything with this. Now we're moving to Avdiivka direction because we continue receiving significant number of updates from the territory. We have lots of geolocations exactly around Berdych and Semyonovka. We have few important updates that the Russians, according to different mappers, managed to already establish control over the southern part of the village and to answer the Semyonovka village from the south. So this is approximately the Russian control area by the beginning of the 28th of March. Very likely today the Russians will continue their improvements further to the north along the central street. And today, right before I start making the video, we got another very important update that the Russians answered Semyonovka from the north as well. So very likely that maybe today, maybe tomorrow, the Minister of Defense of Russian Federation will provide us complete information about complete established control over the village of not just of Semyonovka, but also over Berdych and Semyonovka as well. So the Ukrainians are in a very poor situation. And furthermore, the Ukrainians continue sending more and more reinforcements and reserves. For now, I can't tell you for sure why the Ukrainians are sending so many forces to hold Semyonovka and Berdych. Maybe there is some kind of strategical point of view, let's say value from these two towns. For now, I don't see, but we can admit that the Ukrainians are sending hundreds and thousands of soldiers to hold this line, and they're just wasting them one wave by another. For example, on this video we can see another destroyed Abrams tanks in the between Berdych and Semyonovka. This is the photo, and we have geolocated FPV drone strike, the Russian FPV drone attacking the Ukrainian Abrams tank. So this is, I don't know, maybe already a fifth or sixth Abrams tank in a row that was destroyed during the battle on Avdiivka direction. When talking about the central and the eastern part of the village, the Russians managed to improve their positions and to establish complete control over the central part, and very likely that the rest of the buildings are either in the gray zone or under Russian control. Today we got another video confirming Russian attack using significant number of armored vehicles, two tanks or one tank and two personnel carriers enter the part of the Berdych. Take a look, please pay attention to the ground, to the situation. It reminds me, I don't know, the Switzerland cheese or something like this, because there is no even a single square meter or centimeter that wasn't attacked or damaged either by the Russian or Ukrainian artillery. So the Russians landed in that part of Berdych, and very likely the Russians managed to capture the entire territory, because the video first of all was provided by the Russian sources, and of course if they provide something, they provide always the video with their great results or success. Regarding the almost complete collapse of Ukrainians' defense here and complete control over the territory, the Ukrainians continue counterattacks the Russian forces with significant number of FPV drones, and if we increase the numbers of updates since the beginning of the March, you're gonna see the number of FPV drone strikes that Ukrainians made in the area, mainly by the forces of 47th Mechanized Brigade. You know that I noted, at least today, I noted that the Ukrainians maybe somehow got another batch of military aid. We know that recently nobody announced about any military aid to Ukraine, but we know that there are currently military exercises on the border with Ukraine. Maybe Western countries try to use this military exercises, let's say, strategy. So when military exercises, you need to waste your weapon. So it's not like military exercises to stick together, to go to McDonald's and then to go back to different countries. If you're in the military exercises, there is like, let's say you are giving bullets, I don't know, missiles, I don't know, tank equipment, even weapon, drones and so on, and you use all this type of weapon for military practice. And of course, this will be minus after another day of military exercises from the balance. So maybe the NATO countries, under the cover of the military exercises in Poland, start sending weapons to Ukraine, because when talking about March, I noted significantly increased number of use of FPV drones by the Ukrainian side, first of all. Second, for example, today we got at least 4 geolocated strikes by HIMARS, which is also increased in comparison with the previous days. For example, on this video we can see the attack with HIMARS against the Russian artillery system somewhere in the forest, and the result, the artillery system was destroyed. On this video, for example, we can see a very rare footage of destroyed Russian command center with JDAM, and the Ukrainians managed to discover, and at some point they attacked the area with JDAM, and the Russian command center was destroyed. In Zaporozhye area, the Ukrainians using HIMARS systems destroyed few Russian artillery systems to the south of Robotina, and another Russian artillery position or radar was destroyed to the south of Velika Novoselovka and Vremivka tactical bridgehead. So, and once again, the Ukrainians increased the use of drones significantly during the previous days, not just in Avdiivka direction, but also we can note significant number of use of drones on Terny direction, where the Russians also are in offensive state, trying to establish control or to answer the village by the name of Terny, and the Ukrainians probably bombed and attacked with FPV drone every single square meter in the area. We will not watch the videos, just take a look at the configuration showing us the Russian attacks and so on. And according to information we have, the Russians were trying to move along this line, and the Russians were trying to enter Terny from this direction, but the Russian armored convoys were stopped and destroyed by the Ukraine FPV drones. So very interesting. Let's follow the situation, trying to understand what did happen and what did we miss. Now let's return back a little bit to Novomikhailivka, where the Russians continue advancing, and today we got additional videos confirming the Russian progress. And for example, on this video we can see FPV drone strikes against the Russian forces in this part of let's say Novomikhailivka. So that's why we have adjusted the map. Different mappers shows the progress of the Russians as well. So as we can see, according to the map, including the farms, including the farms to the south, to the north, we can make a conclusion that the Russians control more than 50%, and then the situation start moving much more faster in Russian favor. So we expect additional updates today, not just from Avdiivka direction, from Berdichi, Semenovka, but obviously from Novomikhailivka and Terny, where the Russians are trying to advance and to force the Ukrainians to fall back. A few interesting political updates on this area. Zelensky is still located in Sumy, trying to check the borderlands, trying to check the defense belt. Have very interesting updates about the mobilization. According to information we have, the Ukrainians declined to adopt demobilization law. If you remember, there was like some attempts from, let's say, deputies of Ukraine to adopt demobilization law, but it was refused on the final stage, or at least sent to for upgrade. Now the Ukrainians have adopted the configuration and the view of the van that they will use for mobilization process in Ukraine. So this is the bus that Ukrainians are planning to use to capture people, so everything is clear. Nobody is going to use some private cars or something like this. Furthermore, we got more updates from the border with Moldova and Romania. Another batch of Ukrainians were captured in the track. The bus driver was, let's say, redeploying them in the hidden, let's say, sectors of bus through the border. But another batch of Ukrainians was captured, and probably soon they will be sent somewhere to the line of combat contact. During the previous night, another NATO drone was flying, or the United States drone was flying above the Black Sea, making the video, making the reconnaissance operation, and filming the area of Crimean Bridge and so on. And the most important, a few interesting, let's say, articles from the Western press. The United Kingdom military couldn't fight Russia for longer than 2 months. Very interesting article, but the United Kingdom officers is already fighting with Russians since the beginning of the special military operation, probably more than 2 months. Maybe they were talking about this. And France is continued transition to the war footing, and it's a very interesting war footing transition. In 2024, France is planning to produce 100,000 artillery rounds, and 80,000 is going to be sent to Ukraine, and 20 for France. And Russia, I'll remind you, during the 2024 produced more than few millions. So it's very difficult to say what kind of military war footing they're transiting to, but but for me it's not transition to the war footing. And that's it for this short video. Military Summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching, subscribe to my channel, put your likes to my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.